Good morning, sunshine. I'm Carey Pena alongside Brandon Lee, and we are so appreciative to have you here with us for our show all about mental health, mental strength, and really how to live our best lives.
Yeah, so we've got a great conversation that's about to happen today. Two incredible guests. The first guest we're going to hear from is Serena Siebenhaller, and she is an author of a series of children's book really focused with those with autism. She has a 9-year-old son who's autistic, and I think that's probably what inspired her to create a series of picture books for children who are also autistic to help them kind of express their feelings and their emotions and also to identify.
Yeah, it's all about inclusion for all kids.
And I love this. Do not wish for a birthday unicorn. I'm so excited to talk with Serena about that. And then coming up a little bit later on the show is going to be Tim Ummel. He's the creator of Give's Virtual Care Act. And I checked out their website and I have so many questions because what they are doing is pretty darn incredible, especially for those who do not have insurance or those who are underinsured. You still have access to mental health care. So we're gonna be talking to Tim about that. Again, he's the creator of the Give's Virtual Care Act, and it's a lot about telemedicine as well.
But first, we're going to talk about what is going down, and this is a similar topic here.
Yeah.
We're talking about how AI could help those struggling with mental health. This is an article that we caught wind of. This young man, Jacob Boyle, he was in his final years of college and really struggling with his mental health, and there was a 3-month wait for him to get help, and he said that wasn't good enough. So he came up with this robot, it's called Marco. It's an interactive robot, and basically what it does is it talks back to you during a crisis. As I understand it, Marco, you can input numbers of like your close circle of friends. And so it's going to pick up on keywords and have a little conversation, a pep talk with you. And if it senses something serious going on, then it dials out to one of your friends.
Oh, saying that you may need help.
That's how I understand it.
Okay, so when you first brought this to me, I'm like, okay, first off, an AI teddy bear talking about mental health, I was just like over my head.
Yeah,
I'm
I saw
like,
you
come
zone
on,
out.
this
Yeah.
is like gimmicky. And then you do some research on it, and this was a statistic reported by Forbes on Forbes.com, and this blew my mind. And it says that a recent survey suggests that many people may actually prefer to, quote unquote, talk to a chatbot or other AI program about their mental health struggles. In fact, only 18% of people surveyed, only 18% of people who were surveyed preferred to talk to a human about their problems, meaning that about 82% prefer to talk to a robot.
Wow.
And I think it's the judging, right? It's the shame, it's the judging. You know, you're concerned about how others are going to perceive you, even if it is a therapist or a doctor or somebody, how they're going to perceive you when you open up and become vulnerable at some of the things that you're struggling with.
What I really liked too that Jacob did was he went out and he tried to figure out a solution, because he was saying that, you know, in his age group, it is so overwhelming, the mental health challenges. I was reading a stat that said 55% of high school students said that they were emotionally abused by an adult in the household during COVID, and 44% felt persistently sad or hopeless. So these are the things that we're reporting on this show,
right,
and trying to dig into what are some of the solutions that are out there.
Yeah, and just to, you know, kind of put a bow on that topic is that, of course, cases of domestic violence skyrocketed during the pandemic, and of course, cases of child molestation and child abuse skyrocketed during the pandemic. When the predators were forced to stay at home and work from home, they were all around their prey a lot longer and normal hours than they used to be. So we did see a huge skyrocket, and then we saw less of those abuse cases being reported because a majority of those are being reported by teachers, and teachers were not around those kids to see.
That's right.
Yeah. So let's get into our first guest today, Serena Siebenhaller. She is an author of what appears to be a few children's books. Come on in, Serena. It's good to have you here. I'm loving this book cover.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we'll put
Good
this.
to shake hands again.
I know, right? My goodness. Serena, a little bit of background about you, and I'm going to ask you what inspired these children's books, because I absolutely love the colors and I love picture books for kids as well. You have a 9-year-old son who is autistic.
That's right.
When did you first know that your child with special needs or your child was autistic?
Well, before the age of 22 months, he was diagnosed at 22 months.
Okay.
There were some behaviors that were a little bit off, and we knew, I had a gut feeling, as a mom usually does, that we needed to seek some medical attention because I wasn't really familiar with autism, but I knew that there was something there that needed to be discovered and that we could work on to fix it or help, give him the tools to help him get through it. So he was diagnosed at 22 months of age. And during that journey, I kind of did go through a spiral of being in a dark place because it was just, uncharted territory. I didn't know what it was. And in discovering it, I realized that I really needed to start building a village of my own. I needed to seek resources and human connection to help me get through it. So I did do that, and there are wonderful organizations in the Valley that did help me discover and give me the tools that I needed to help my son. So at this point, he is thriving, he's growing. He was nonverbal until the age of 5, and he is now, and so he's, and reading was a very big integral part of that. So we're very lucky in that we immersed ourselves in picture books to help him, start building those language skills. So he's doing really well now.
What's his first name?
Landon.
Okay, Landon.
Yeah.
So when you were going through this journey alongside Landon, and as you just talked about, it's your own journey too, because as a parent, you're trying to really come to the realization this is not the life I thought we were going to live, but I love my son. I'm going to do everything for my son.
Yeah.
So how did you come up with the idea to write these books and beautifully illustrated to help other children, not just Landon, but so many other children? And I understand you have quite a celebrity following too.
Yes. So, having a child that is nonverbal, I knew right away that in order to help develop those language skills, I needed to start reading to him. And I was always, I've always been a writer. I've always enjoyed poetry and art. And for me, picture books are just the perfect marriage of the two. And if he couldn't understand, cognitively what I was actually telling him in the story, he could at least look at those pictures. And, in creating the who, what, where, why, how, he started to develop a language of his own. And now he tells beautiful stories of his own. So I'm, really proud of where he has been and where he is now.
I think too, you described that moment when you realized something was there.
Right.
And you felt almost hopeless, or you said you kind of spiraled into some in and out of some dark spaces. Well, two of my very close friends, two separate families.
Okay.
Both of them have children who are autistic. And they too felt that same spiraling in and out of like hopelessness, shame, sometimes shame, like even, and how do I navigate this? And I think that by giving this, you're giving a tool, right? You're finding a way to find purpose out of something. And I think that that's so beautiful in your healing too.
It really has been part of my healing process, because in parenting, it takes up so much energy and emotional space, and you're giving all that you can for your children, right? Whether it's extra needs or just, the normal day-to-day. But I found that I needed to show up for myself to be able to show up for my kids and my family. And so being able to advocate for other families that find out that they have a diagnosis of autism, and being able to encourage reading through early literacy and picture books. And, the love I see in my own children, that they're motivated with silliness, outlandish, children's books. So that's kind of where I began the writing process, was knowing that with humor, it's a universal language all of its own, and I can help motivate other struggling or emergent readers.
It reminds me, I did an interview with a wonderful woman whose child has a rare genetic disorder. She is nonverbal to this day. I believe she's almost 5 now. And she said to me, Carey, normally parents look for milestones. She said, what I've learned is we look for inch stones and we celebrate those inch stones.
For sure.
And that always stood out to me.
For sure.
And I just wanted you to talk about the titles of your books because they're so creative. So Do Not Wish for a Pet Ostrich, Do Not Wish for a Birthday Unicorn, and then your upcoming book, Do Not Wish for a Christmas Elf.
That's correct, yes. I'm working on that now. But my kids inspired me because they're so entertaining and they come up with like these crazy ideas. And they always said to me, Mom, why can't I have a unicorn for a pet or a hippo or a giraffe? And I thought, how fun would it be if a spunky little girl wished for an ostrich? And if she got it, what would she do? And what kind of silly shenanigans would they go through? So I wrote that in always thinking about special education and what those children would laugh at and be inspired by. So at the end of the story, it reveals the next character, which is the unicorn. And so Kat, the character of the book, has a pet unicorn or a birthday unicorn as a guest for her birthday. And it has a lot of underlining terms of empathy and teamwork and compassion and kindness. But it's not preachy. It's just really all fun and entertaining. So
one of the things about having two of my close friends having children with autism, I'm learning all the time, right?
Yeah,
and I
sure.
think I don't have children, and I'm always scared. Am I going to say the wrong thing? Am I going to ask the wrong question? And thankfully, they're very encouraging. They're like, no, maybe ask this way or maybe say it this way.
Right.
And there was a fascinating article because I think we need to learn the language and how we talk to a parent who has a child who is autistic. And there was a really great article, and it listed out things don't say and maybe do say.
Right.
I just wanted to kind of get your opinion on this and your own experiences. Don't say, you never know by looking at her that she has autism. She looks normal. Do say, your daughter is adorable. This next one, don't say, God doesn't give you what you can't handle. Everything happens for the best. Do say, is there anything I can do to help you out? I'm here if you need to talk.
Right.
Just through your own life experiences, how has learning that communication with friends and loved ones, meaning good, but perhaps not communicating it at the right way?
Well, I think it all starts with awareness, right? I didn't know much about autism before it impacted my own family. And so it's about really understanding and building a relationship and a connection with that person and trying to understand, and I'm very open where I'd say, we probably don't want to say that, that's... I'm okay probably because I'm pretty open and I'll address it, but maybe to somebody else it might be hurtful and painful, and you don't want to, deliver that to somebody. So, I've had those comments mentioned to me, but I also think that in order to be aware or in order to understand it, you first be aware of it, and then the acceptance is there, right? Then you'll be more knowledgeable when you approach somebody else that has the same similar situation.
We so appreciate you being here.
Yeah.
Congratulations on all the success.
it's
I
amazing.
heard
Thank you.
Jennifer Love Hewitt is a fan of yours.
Oh my
Jenny
gosh.
McCarthy, rocking the 90s. You're just an inspiration. So thank you so much for coming and sharing your story. I'm so glad you guys are all doing well. And now we want to share a story about a community coming together. We produced a series called Avondale Edge, and on this series we profiled two businesses that told us during COVID they would have really been decimated had it not been for the city of Avondale, city leaders who literally went out to help these businesses and this community rallying behind them in such a beautiful and positive way. Have a look.
I'm Christina Witten.
I'm Ryan Witten, and we're the owners of 8-Bit Ale Works in Avondale, Arizona. This is our tasting room that we're in right now. So we do all of the brewing in the back, and then you move about 30 feet up front to here, and we're pouring the beer straight out of the taps for you.
When we met, he homebrewed a little bit, from like his apartment. And then when we decided to buy a house, he kind of expanded into the backyard, had a much bigger system as far as homebrew systems go. By the time we opened, I had 7 refrigerators devoted to beer. So I was not surprised when he approached me with the idea of maybe opening a brewery, but he homebrewed for about 11 years.
We started this off with very small expectations, and then the community just embraced us and sent the place sky high. It's been really humbling.
Hello, I'm Ben Cheney. I'm one of the owners of Scale and Feather Meadery here in Avondale, Arizona. So we're a meadery. We are the world's oldest fermented beverage that nobody knows about, and we're one of 5 in Arizona that makes it. It's basically essentially honey wine, and what we did is we decided to go with a fun, go with the ancients, right? So go with a Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones kind of theme, and we're huge Dungeons and Dragon players, so we thought this would be a good fit. This was a big dream for us. We didn't really know if we could even make it happen. You know, put everything together, put all our resources in together, remortgage the house. We wanted to bring people to meet. When we were in one of the meetings with all the cities there, Avondale is the one that wanted us. Everyone else is like, yeah, just, talk to the hand or, send us an email. Avondale was like, no, come meet us now. And that was the best feeling ever because they wanted us from day one. And that really gave us the courage and the resolve, if you will, to do it.
Entrepreneurism is not easy. It is really kind of a blend of luck and stubbornness in a lot of ways. We completely self-funded, so we spent our entire savings and everything that we had to get this place started, knowing that we were young enough that if it failed, we could start over. Wouldn't be as nice, but it'd be okay. And through significant amounts of hard work, through constantly talking to other people who are smarter and more experienced than we are, including the representatives of the city of Avondale, we just plowed through each challenge one at a time and continued to push until we could find that measure of success.
So that story right there, it's one story of a couple of businesses that were lifted and saved by the community leaders and the community, but Avondale did that time and time again through COVID, which I just thought was outstanding.
Well, because I think Avondale really truly understands that small businesses, small family-owned businesses are the true backbone to any community. It's not
Yes.
always the big box stores. The fabric of the community are always the small businesses, the people who live and work and grow their business in the communities in which they live. And the beautiful thing is we saw story after story of communities coming together wanting to save their businesses, so they purposely shopped at the mom and pop stores rather than the big box stores
I
during
love
the
to
pandemic.
see that because every time I see a closed for business sign on a door, I always think that was someone's life's work. That was their dream.
Right.
And kind of the anguish that you have to go through to make that decision that we can't make it. So to see these businesses surviving and thriving is just beautiful.
Yeah, it is great. All right, let's transition to our next conversation here on Good Morning Sunshine. I'm excited for this one.
Yes.
His name is Tim Ummel. He's the creator of Gives Virtual Care Act. Tim, it's good to have you here in our studios this morning. I'm huge into behavioral health, and I'm huge into fighting inequities when it comes to mental health and behavioral health. And I think that this app that you've created really does hit the bullseye in providing behavioral health and mental health coverage to folks who may not even be able to afford insurance. First off, before we get to that, what on earth inspired you to even go down this route to create this behavioral health app and make it so accessible for everyone?
Got sent home.
Yeah.
We all got quarantined and went, oh my gosh, what are we going to do now? Right? We're all sitting at home. We get quarantined for the first time in a pandemic in our lives and probably, hopefully ever again. And as I sat there, I come from the sports, technology, and golf industry. So my buddies are the guys that own 16,000 golf courses across our country. You think about it, the people that mow those greens or those fairways are 1099 employees.
Yes.
People that wash down the carts are part-time. As soon as your time to bring you your food, they're hourly. All of those categories have zero access to health care. They don't qualify. And as I sat there thinking, well, now we're stuck at home. We can't be interacting. How are they going to talk to a doctor? How are they going to get groceries, right? All the stuff that we had to adapt to. So it was multiple nights in the first 2 months of quarantine of going, there's got to be a better way. I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I've been doing it. I'm now 50, and that's my 30th company. And I thought, well, I could go raise a bunch of money, buy a bunch of telemedicine companies, pull them all together, brand them as Give Virtual Care. Give virtual care from an employer to employees. They can then give it to their family, and then we can give back. So that was the whole reason for Give Virtual Care. And as I looked at it, I went, man, healthcare is a big, big business.
Oh, yeah.
And a friend of mine, thank goodness, tackled me and said, have you ever heard of 3 guys named Jeff Bezos, Warren Buffett, and Jamie Dimon? I'm like, of course. He goes, well, Tim, they put $4 billion in a kitty to start a company called Haven to take on insurance. 3 years later, they closed it down. So in all due respect, do you think you're really going to be better? I'm like, oh, you're right. I probably am not. So I got introduced to a group that was the largest provider of online doctors called Teladoc. And I went to them and said, hey, you guys are the backbone of all the carriers. You're the backbone of government contracts. What about the 35.4 million people that are actively employed in our country, but zero qualifications to get health care? For 100 years, we have two choices. You have insurance or you don't.
Right.
Zero. End of story. So our idea was, can we make the third option be, you now have access to a virtual healthcare membership. So we aggregated direct communication to a doctor. In that communication to the doctor on, I have a head cold, I have a pneumonia, I have a rash. Doc, what do I do? Oh, that's actually not poison ivy, Tim, that's poison oak. Let me write you a prescription. Direct access to a discount right inside the app. Go to Walgreens, don't have to get out of your car, save the money, have it shipped to your house. And then I said, well, what about my daughter, who's a junior at U of A, her freshman year of college, the greatest year of her life, the greatest suite mates, dorm mates, sorority, living life to its fullest, can't be better, and wasn't asked, we need you to go home in March. It was, get your SHIT and get out. Go back to your parents you just left. And I could see the face of her and her roommates and the people on our floor going, this isn't what we signed up for. So you immediately knew that mental health was going to be impacted. And then as you take the research, and as we found over this last 2 years of discovery, take universities across our country, 9 out of 10 close their health center, if they have one, at 5 o'clock every day and every weekend. Well, if I wake up tomorrow and I'm Susie and my boyfriend's having some conversations with me that aren't great and it's gray outside, I don't choose to be depressed now. I don't have anxiety choice when I want to do it. So we said, if we could build a crisis care app inside of this where I can literally hit a button, I'm not going to probably talk to my parents. I may not want to be on campus and talk to a professor who is a signed-in mental health provider that I have to see in my math class tomorrow. If I could have an anonymous way that I could talk at no cost. So the whole reason for Give Virtual Care and the app, live in the Apple Store and Android Store, was I could download it, $25 a month. It's for me as an employee or an individual. It includes my spouse or life partner and up to 15 kids in the house for $25 and zero copays.
Let me ask you, going in deep as you have to create this app, so you've studied now in the mental health sphere, what is your level of concern about the need out there?
We have a ticking time bomb, I believe, in the next 4 to 5 years of the result of what happened the last 2 years. I don't think we've seen it, and only because I'm a parent first and watching through the eyes of I have a junior in college and a senior in high school and their peers and their friends of going, they're hiding and they're compressing and they're pushing down what really is going to be an effect. If we can get out ahead of it and give them an option to have a way to vocalize and talk about it, I think they have a real solution.
I want to go back to the pricing here because this is insanity to me. For about 25 or 30 bucks a month, you can actually have access to a therapist or a psychiatrist or anything with behavioral health. That is insane because any even private healthcare plan, even if your employer is going to pay 50-50, right? It's still about 350, 400 bucks a month.
Correct. So this was you had asked earlier, why did I do this? This is much more of a mission for me. This is purpose over profit. My goal was, yes, we need to make some money as a company.
Of course,
but if we
you have
can
to
make
sustain.
it so inexpensive, and I'm Tom, and I'm an assistant manager at Taco Bell, and I'm the breadwinner for my family, I have anxiety, and I'm 45. It's not just college kids. It's not just a person that's 65, to your point. It affected everybody.
Everybody.
And so if we don't give them a choice and make it really simple to say, hey, before your shift, step aside in the break room, you can talk to somebody.
What has the response been, just quickly?
It's overwhelming. You know, most people want to look at it and they're like, they only know insurance is insurance.
Right,
Said,
which is a beast, by the way.
It is, and they said, we're the non-insurance solution. So we don't have open enrollment. We're a virtual healthcare membership. I said, if you walk into the 4 walls of a Lifetime Fitness, I pay one amount of money, I can row, play basketball, sauna, spin, all for that. Well, walk in my 4 walls, and for one amount, you can talk to a therapist, get mental health, a crisis counselor, a physician, and a prescription care, all for the same amount of money. So it's always there. And the reason we found was most of this workforce doesn't necessarily have a laptop or computer at home.
No.
But every one of them pay for this.
Everyone has
They have to have their
phone.
TikTok. So there's no friction to get to that person.
No.
So if you break down that wall, you can reach a lot more people.
We do have to wrap, but just really briefly, can you just leave us with a final word about what you have personally learned in this part of your journey?
I mean, I'm halfway to a PhD on how screwed up our healthcare system is, to be candid, and how we just don't realize how many people don't have access. And that's why we built this, is to give everybody a fair shot to get themselves and their families better.
Well, thank you so much.
We need fixers like you in our community, is people like that they see an issue, they see a need, and they go out and they create it.
Yeah, we appreciate you for coming to the studio today.
Thank you for having me. You bet.
So, as many of you know who are watching right now, I do art healing here at the Center for Positive Media. It's called Art of Our Soul. And when I first got into this business, I truly thought I was only going to be working with people in addiction recovery. It has expanded, and so now I'm working with folks with traumatic brain injuries through the Brain Injury Alliance. And there was a woman, her name is Amanda, and she, for the first time, did an event through brain injuries. She had never done one before, but she's like, okay, maybe I'll try this acrylic pouring. She was kind of in and out of a dark space in her life. She felt stuck. She had suffered 5 strokes, and she's in her 30s. And she said, after one session in my art studio, she sent me a text message after she created this beautiful piece of artwork, which we're showing you right now. She said, Brandon, I'm not sure I can put into words why this art activity made such a difference, but it was a breakthrough step in reinventing myself, finding bravery to tell my story, and breaking away from my last trauma. Sometimes seemingly small things can bring us to a place of realization. And it just, that blew me away.
Amanda, you are spreading sunshine. And
Yeah.
it's so beautiful whenever we see the people coming out of your art therapy sessions, because they're happy.
They're happy.
And geez, I mean, we just need a little bit more joy.
Unlocking a
in our
little bit of
lives,
dopamine,
right?
you know, unlocking a little bit of dopamine. Not everyone needs to sit there and talk one-on-one to a therapist, you know, and not, you know, it's a whole pie of continuum of care.
All of these things.
All of these things together create a
Yes.
whole person, not one sliver
Yes.
of a pie.
Thank you all so much for joining us for Good Morning Sunshine, and we certainly appreciate you. Our mission here is to really talk about mental health, mental wellness, and just overall well-being.
That's right, and please do, when you go to our YouTube channel, subscribe to it. You'll notice that there's a little alarm bell symbol right there. Click on that. It'll send you notifications and alerts every time we upload a new episode. We'll see you back here for the next episode. Have a great one.
Take care.